So today I'm doing the seek and destroy on JavaScript's algorithms and data structures on freeCodeCamp, and this one is part of the intermediate algorithm scripting. So what they want us to do is we'll be provided with an initial array, which is the first argument of the destroyer function, and that will be followed by one or more arguments. So we can see here we've got two arguments after the initial array of 2 and 3. We want to remove all elements from the initial array that are of the same value as these arguments. And you can see here we've got numbers, but we've also got strings as well, or a mixture of each in that. So essentially we're looking through this array and we're removing any of the elements that match any of these arguments, whether there's one or more. So this example, they said, would return an array of 1 and 1, because that's all that's left over after the sort of destroyer function has run. So let me just console.log around that and go back a bit, and we can then see the output at the moment is just the array itself. So you can see here that we're outputting this array. So they've already made a note that you'll need to use the arguments object. So if you haven't sort of seen this before, this is the arguments that are passed into the function. So if I bring this over, we can see here, and obviously it's this line that we're looking at the top one. Here's the arguments, and it's an object, as you can see. So we've got object position 0, and that is the array. And then position 1 is 2, and position 2 is 3 over here. And I believe if we do arguments at position 0, we've got the array. Position 1, we've got number 2, and then 2, we've got number 3. So that's something that we can bear in mind and sort of use that object throughout. But just in the sort of, I guess, this instance, what is actually a bit easier is if we convert this to an array, and then we can sort of manipulate the array a little bit easier than objects having sort of values and keys. But essentially that's all it is. So arguments is giving us all of the argument that's been passed in, and it's splitting them out into a unique object. So what we'll do is we'll let sort of args, so these are the arguments, and then we'll do an array.from and arguments like so. If I console.log args, we should be able to see now we've got an array of those arguments, so that's just here, right? So what do we want to do? We want to obviously go through essentially the array here and check if these values are included inside, and if they are, sort of, I guess, remove them, or the other way around would be to create a new array and go through this and just check if these elements are not in this array, or the other way around, if they aren't, then add that to the new array, which is what we're going to do here. So we'll do let new array equal an empty array, and this is now what we'll be returning, new array here. So at this point, we've got our args, right? But we actually also want to get the sort of these numbers at the end of this, because at the moment it's giving us everything in the array. So I guess we'll just call it targets. These are sort of the targets that target elements that we're looking at to then go through and seek and destroy this array here. So targets, and what we can use is actually args.splice and then position 1. So we're basically taking off the first element, and console.log, if I just log args again, which is an array now, we'll be able to see this. So because we've got an array, and then inside that we've got another array, and then we've got 2 and 3. If I do splice, what that is going to do at position 1 is actually mutate the args array and just leave us with 2 and 3. So if I now bring this down and console.log targets, we can see here we've got the array 2 and 3. And I think if I do args now, yeah, okay, so now args is just the original array, or the array that's been passed in. So that should actually be enough, I believe, of what we need, because so the array itself is what we'll be going through, and then, yeah, we're using the targets to check against that. So we can do a for loop. I'm going to do a for of loop just so it's a little bit easier to understand syntax wise, because we don't need the iterator. But we can do let L for element of array, and then open up these, and then we'll do if targets dot index of, something like that. And the L equals -1. So basically, if this element here is not found within the targets array, it would return -1 as a sort of passing through index of. And in this case, we want to do new array dot push and just that element. Okay, so you can see here we're now returning 1 and 1, which is what we're expecting. So just to sort of recap this logic, we're looping through the original array, which is just this, right? And if I sort of console.log arr, we can see that's the array that we're actually passing in, whereas the arguments are sort of the whole lot. So args is obviously now just that because we've spliced it. But if I move this up to the top, we can see here, that args is actually, once we've converted it to an array, the whole thing, everything that's been passed in, even if we're not referencing it up here. So, you know, you could do sort of num1, num2, but obviously in this instance, we don't actually know how many arguments there will be provided to us, so we can't do that. So yeah, this is one of the solutions, and I believe now if I run this, we should see it passes all the tests, which is great. So it's on like Donkey Kong. So there we go. That's one way to do seek and destroy on freeCodeCamp. Let me know in the comment box below if you've got perhaps a better solution or sort of a more elegant one than this. But yeah, I found this was quite easy to do based on your knowledge of arguments. And obviously I'm working with an array here, because I'm more comfortable with arrays than objects. But yeah, that's one way how to do it. So that's all for today, and look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thank you.